Well, Izzy's not here. It's just me and Flynn this week on Trader Chat, but Izzy is here in spirit, and because she had a bit of a story in terms of a racing moment that was a little bit different, Flynn, at the races on Saturday.
She did indeed. I've got the tweet here. So she was actually at Ascot Chase there, I believe, with her dad. Well, that's a new one. Somebody stole my betting slip out of my pocket. I went and reported it. The bloke tried to cash it in, and when they queried how they came by it, he ran away. So that's a tale for the grandkids, isn't it? Regarding a on-course experience. I've actually had it before as well, to be fair. I had a bet a couple of years ago at Royal Ascot. There's a bit of a trumpet here, but it was Cape Byron. It was a short one in a handicap. Simon went to get a bet off me because I was working. And in amongst, obviously, Royal Ascot, when I'm working, you're just mad busy, and I managed to lose the slip, but it actually fell out my pocket. And the bookie had the guy who managed to pick up my ticket come and try and collect it. So then the bookie's run over to us. He's gone mental at me. He's gone mad at Simon because he thinks that we've tried to mug him off a little bit and try and get paid twice. And I'm like, mate, I've just completely lost the ticket here. But that gentleman obviously didn't get paid. And I did manage to get paid in the end. But it is good to know that when you are on course, if you do have an instance size, you do lose a ticket or anything like that, do just go speak to the bookmaker. They'll inform the betting manager. They'll get the number of the docket to make sure that you are paid out. So when somebody else does try and collect on your behalf. So that's just one step if you do go on course.
I remember being at my local track in Roscommon, which is kind of not far from East Galway, when a few years ago, and I'd done some horse each way, and it had placed anyway, but I lost the docket. But I was a few points in, and I couldn't remember what bookie. I had to retrace my steps and basically look him or her in the eye and think, if I get a look back, maybe that was the bookie. Eventually, I got out of jail anyway. Another one was in Cheltenham when I found a wallet one day. I'd done my brains at Cheltenham the same day. It was during the festival, wasn't in good form. Done my brains, found a wallet full of sterling, found the owner, and he just said, "Oh, thanks, mate," and just went back to the bar. And I was like, "Get me out of here! I mean, at least give me a tip, or give me even a tip for the next."
A pint. A pint or something.
Anything. But anyway, there it is. She was at Ascot. Where were you the weekend?
Where was I? I was working from the main office down in Brighton. I kind of work from home at the start of the week, and in Brighton was back the week at the moment whilst just juggling everything. So I was down in Brighton working on the Saturday, watching all the racing, and just getting everything ready as we get towards March now. March is just a hugely busy time for me personally with all the on-course stuff, but also the horse racing in the office. So just getting everything kind of prepped and ready to go for that. Let's
go through the results then. Obviously, just in the Renaissance, and the big one won by Factor Dudaris in the Ascot Chase, and we get to a little bit of Haydock and Gowran as well. We'll start with Ascot then.
Yeah, so Fakir Dudari obviously got the job done in the Ascot Chase. Just showed the strength of the Irish chasers, I thought here. How far behind are we? It's always slightly worrying when they don't clash before we get to Cheltenham and you see one come over who's not necessarily the best 2.5 miler that you guys would have. And he kind of puts ours to the sword, albeit probably not the best 2.5 miles we have, but there were some decent ones in there. Do you know what I mean? So well back to the end at 94, favourite for the race. It just looked classy. The way he travelled was just classy, whereas the others were battlers. Fanny Destrav stayed on really nicely into third. Probably wants a longer trip and maybe a bit more of a test. But I just thought that the way that Fakir did it was classy. But how good does that make Allaho look, Johnny, for the Ryanair? Jesus.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily even sure he'll go back to Cheltenham. They might look at the Melling Chase or something for him. And this is a team I just wanted to touch with you this week in terms of British trainers. And Paul Nicholas talked about it last week. Actually, just not going to Cheltenham if they think the horse would be better served going to Aintree. I think Donald McCain saying it's better crack, better prize money, and better racing at Aintree, which is highly debatable. But it is obviously Factor Dudaris is Irish trainer. A lot of the British runners might actually not even turn up at Cheltenham if they think it'll be better off going to Aintree.
It wouldn't surprise me. And even if I just look at the Ryanair now, just to isolate it, I mean, you've got to go a fair way. You have to go to 12 to 1 to find a British runner, really, because you've got Allaho in there at 4 to 5. Anokamie's not going to run, he's 13 to 2. Aputar's not going to run, he's 10. And you've got Conflated in there who could go. There was a bit of money around for Conflated last week for this. So he's into 10 to 1. Shamblu's in there at 10s. But if Shamblu's fit, I think he'd probably go for one of the handicaps, considering he didn't get hiked up for his points in the Charlie Hill because he fell a fair bit out. So he could be well. So I don't think he'll go for this. And then you're on to Eldorado Allen, who's probably going to be the next in. So you could, I mean, Allaho could be going off like free on here. There's a genuine opportunity that I think Allaho will be the shortest price at the festival. There's a chance that, I mean, when you take all these out, he could be, I mean, free on might even look a big price come the day, Johnny. It might be one of those in this race. But yeah, just like you say, the British runners are just going to avoid them. And I mean, they can dress it up how they want, that they want to go and win the other races. But if they had a horse good enough, it'd be going to Cheltenham, let's be honest.
Yeah, I just think it's slightly worrying that this has become almost acceptable now, that you can avoid Cheltenham if you think that you're not likely to win the race, and look at Aintree, because Aintree's not Cheltenham. Aintree's a Grand National for me, and I know the Irish don't go over to Aintree in such numbers, but Cheltenham is the Holy Grail, and I think that's a slightly worrying state of affairs. How was Ascot in general? Obviously back here, well back, good risk at all, went off 6-4. Does he know was probably well backed in the Renaissance as well?
Yeah, so just on the topic of a couple of these, they would have good handicap chances at Cheltenham, some of these horses. I mean, Good Risk at All was obviously very well in and won like that. Again, after the event, it was kind of known before the race, he was probably pretty well in. And Does He Know as well. So Does He Know was very easy to back actually in the 150, but got the job done. But he's possibly blown his mark for the Ultima. I mean, he was favourite for the Ultima before the race. He's still favourite now. He's actually shortened in around 3 points. I think he's around the 5-1 mark. We're not actually up with the handicaps yet, but we will be in the next couple of days when we get final decks. But he's going to get hyped up a bit in the weight flat performance. It was a very good performance, and the way that the British trainers operate compared to the Irish trainers is just completely different. You guys just seem to get them ready for the day, whereas we kind of go through the motions and then just end up there. Look, we still might have the winner of the Ultimate, we do tend to, but I think Does He Know is just a prime example of a horse where they could have just saved his mark and could have been had an even better chance, like a £5 better chance for the Ultimate.
He has won a Grade 2 on a Saturday's race in Ascot as well. So I think I guess you need to contextualise that.
Well, in fact, you're saying that he's actually done something good compared to the Ultima. Yeah.
Like if you're looking from the British perspective, he's running a race that doesn't have Irish runners. It's a Grade 2 30 grand race on a Saturday at Ascot, and maybe that is the Cheltenham for the year. I know they're talking about running him in. They could run him in a couple of races at Cheltenham, but I guess realistically, he was a 92 shot to win this, and he won a Grade 2 on a Saturday at Ascot, which isn't to be sniffed at.
Yeah, true, but that doesn't get away from the point of why we don't have as many winners at Cheltenham. That might be the reason. I'm not saying it's not a valid reason.
I don't know, Flynn. I think how they handicap the horse is going to be very interesting this year, because I know they've changed their handicapping a little bit because there were so many Irish winners. I'm not sure about that, because I just think it's a situation where there's a massive difference in the depth of the British runners versus the Irish runners, and obviously they're going to give the British runners slightly more attractive marks, not hype them for winning lesser races as much, put it that way, and that might switch the handicaps a little bit, which would be interesting for the likes of Does He Know.
Yeah, possibly. I'm not saying it doesn't have a chance in the Ultimate. I'm saying he would have a much better chance if he didn't run at the weekend.
Yeah.
Albeit they have won a nice race and he did put in a great performance. But there's always the novice chases as well that Does He Know could go for. So there's always kind of room there as well. I believe, is it the National Hunt Chase that he is entered for?
There,
yeah, he's 12s for the National Hunt Chase. That's always an option if he does get kind of hyped up and they don't want to go down that route. And maybe that's what they're thinking. They were never going to go to the Ultimate and they were going to go for that. So that was Does He Know. Good risk at all. Like I said, very well handicapped horse here. Won as he liked in the 3 o'clock. Not a great result for us. Very well backed. Fiddler on the Roof was a well backed favourite with the 225. Went very short in running, but that was beat by Fortescue, and that was a really good result for the book. So that were kind of the highlights from Ascot, and then moving on to Haydock here. Johnny, you had some decent results here as well. Did you manage to catch any of the Haydock card?
Yeah, well, Porticello is interesting because I'm probably of the opinion that the Triumph is going to be a 2-horse race. Now, he was sent off short and back 6 feet out of the question. He won by 17 lengths, but as was the case in Ascot, the ground was very testing at Haydock, and the connection seemed to be saying after the race this, by the sound was short of being the Cheltenham that we had. Was this 3 years ago when it was heavy on day one? It doesn't sound like they're going to go for the Triumph, but he looks the best British in any case.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, the market certainly says that. We've actually already laid Porticello a while ago, so we're actually bottom price Porticello. I'm not afraid to say that. We're 7-1. Vauban has the market out 2-1, 9-4 Piper, 6-1 Phil Doran has 7 Porticello, 14 bar. I think, like you say, you would need a bog to have a chance there. Although he does look like a real improver. Like the size of him, he's absolutely huge, isn't he? So he's definitely going to get better with runs, and obviously that's what they've been trying to do with Porticello. And the last 2 runs, which have been really impressive. It was a really poor start to the card for us because Adramel won at 4-6, and then Porticello went in at 3-10. So those accumulators were starting to stack up, especially when the horses at Ascot were going to do the job. Your Fakir Duderies, I'll come on to Hillcrest in a minute, and your Good Risk at Alls, etc.
Porticello is an interesting one for them because he's by Shalakov and he's probably a chaser in the making and so on and so forth. And it could be that pragmatic decision just to say, listen, this isn't the be all and end all. Win the 4-year-old hurdle at Cheltenham, we look to the future here, you know.
Yeah, possibly. And if you watch his run first time out, he was quite guessy at some of the flights. And when he was jumping at a good pace for the last two, he pinged them. The last couple of runs, he's jumped much better, but he does seem the type that will respect a fence much more than the hurdle. He probably thinks because he's so big, he can just kind of knock through these, but he's probably going to respect a fence. He's going to probably have scope over it as well. So I think he obviously will make a good chaser in time, but he's still a live runner for the Triumph. In regards to other results at Haydock, Holstone rolled back the years. What a performance this was in the Rendlesham. It was taken around the inside, which was really interesting because typically at Haydock or any track, when it's churning up on the inside, they like to go wide. But I think that's overplayed sometimes. And I thought it was a fantastic ride. I think Sam Twiston was on. I'll have to double check that, to be honest, just before I get called at someone who didn't ride him. I think it was Sam Twiston who was on.
Yeah, it was. He's another horse that isn't necessarily going to go to Cheltenham.
No, exactly. But the way he scraped the paint around the inside, and to be fair, I'm happy enough not to talk about Cheltenham with this horse. He's been laid off for 400 odd days or something, and they've managed to win a very good Grade 2 with him. So absolutely fair play to the Nigel Twiston Davis lot. Great, fantastic training performance. Was a great result in the book for us as well. We did see a little bit of war money at 20s for this, weirdly. Somebody wanted a decent bet at 20s. Went off around 16s, I think, but was a decent result in the book in the end, as the others were well back too. In the 240, that was a Grand National trial. Absolute slog of a race, this one, Johnny, if you did watch it. What a fantastic run from Bristol to Mye in second. Just improves £10 to Haydock, doesn't he, every time he runs?
Indeed. And yeah, like as much as we've had dry conditions in Ireland for much of the winter, this week has been a little bit different. And Gowran was obviously very testing. They had to call off Navan and Dundalk either side for different reasons. Wind on Friday and Sunday, Navan was essentially waterlogged after being effectively good going into January. So I think that might be the future. A lot of flash floods that bring good ground into unraceable ground. But getting on to Gowran anyway, Flynn, it was there's obviously one place to start in terms of Cheltenham. That was Tiopu, who won the Red Mills Trial. This was a race I remember Hardy Eustace winning en route to win the second champion hurdle. For this horse, we sent off 13-day considering he's taken on Durasso, who's maybe somewhat underrated, but is quite highly rated. He'd no real entitlement to be this price at all based on ratings. Obviously, the fact that he's an unexposed-ish 5-year-old and Calixios maybe isn't trained on. He beaten him by 22 lengths. This was an interesting performance, and which prompted Nick Luck to say it might be a contrarian view, but I don't think it's a bad champion hurdle this year.
I don't think it's a bad champion hurdle. I think it's the most competitive one that Honeysuckle's going to face, even though you'd say that, okay, she's 2 on here, but she's won at 9-4 last year, but we know more about her now. She's going to be facing horses in the champion hurdle that she hasn't faced before. Again, you can see that for previous runs, but at least we're not just seeing her come out and face the same field that she faced last year. She'd be shorter. She's one to appreciate it's 4-1, 8-1 Epatante, who obviously she's beat before, but she has an interesting mix if she is back to top form. Tihupo, who you just mentioned, is 10-1 from 16, so 4th in for the champion hurdle. And then you're on to horses that Honeysuckle's facing for, your Xanahirs of the world and your Quilixios, etc. So it's between appreciated Epatante and Tihupo, I think, to create the turn up for the books. But there's every chance that Honeysuckle underperformed in champion hurdle, which would not surprise me. But Tihupo was very impressive, was a bad result for us on the day, but into 10-1 from 16. I guess the other one to talk about from Gowran would be Mellon, who got on the score sheet at 2-5.
Mellon jumped brilliantly. Can I just go back to your comment there on Honeysuckle, which kind of like one of these things you try to throw in and get away with it? Why would she disappoint Cheltenham?
I didn't like her head carriage the last day. I didn't like the way she jumped. I thought she looked fairly laboured, even though winning. But when she got to the front, she didn't power away. And I just think that I say this most weeks, and I promise I'm not being sexist to the mares here, but I do think that sometimes these mares can just go off the boil, and there might have been a few early signs the last day that this could be coming. She could probably get away a bit with the field that she faced over in Ireland, but if the real appreciator turns up, we don't really know what appreciator can do we? Because we haven't seen him really tested.
In fairness to Tihupo as well, Elliot said after the race that he hated the ground. Now, if he hated the ground and he's beaten Durasso, who would absolutely relish those conditions because he stays so well, if he's beaten him by 11 lengths, he's very much champion hurdle contender. He's only lost one race when he was probably not right behind Jeff Kidder. In other words, he's otherwise unbeaten. So it has actually become quite an interesting race, albeit one dominated by the Raiders. But anyway, getting on to Mellon, he jumped brilliantly, I thought. He just went out in front. He was basically, there was a 1-on-1 on the race, 3 horses to beat. I presume he was popular in Acumes, despite the fact he's won once in 3 or 4 years.
He certainly was winning at 2-5. It's a weird one with Mellon. It's nice to see him come out and do this because he can be labelled as a bit of a monkey, but he's not really. I think he should bump it into horses that are better than him. But he does kind of get that label a little bit. People were talking about Goshen as well, weren't they? And the fact that Goshen and Mellon were odds on, and that's kind of like the crazy double to be having at the weekend. We'll get on to Goshen in a minute, actually. So 12th and 20 for the Ryanair and 40 for the Gold Cup wouldn't be on my mind, to be honest with you. I think he's probably more likely to go for, I don't know, actually. I think he's probably more likely to go for the Gold Cup if Willie's got Alaho going to
He's not going to run the Gold Cup. Like, he barely gets 3 miles, I think. So if he went in the Ryanair, he could easily finish second. Okay,
all right. So 12th and 20 for Ryanair. I wouldn't have a strong view there. I was just shooting from the hip, to be honest. So that was Gowran.
Just don't get away with it, Flynn. Trader Chat is all about like really deeply held, deep-rooted views.
I know. I do get called out for it as well. I guess we want to talk about Wincanton. I've not got it on the agenda, Johnny, but I think that we do need to talk about the Goshen race quickly, don't we?
Well, he's just ahead of the ball, and I don't know. I mean, you take your life into your hands when you're backing him. He just hangs so much, and it seems to be 1 step forward, 2 steps back with him. In fairness,
I mean, this performance was good though. I thought it was a fantastic ride by Jamie Moore to wind them up. He managed to get the rail just near the bushes on the near side of Wincanton. Adagio's a bit of a bridle horse, but he stood around a really, really nice race. And I thought it was a really good performance from Goshen. I mean, when you bear in mind that Adagio isn't a massive price for the champion hurdle. Adagio is 20-1 for the champion hurdle there. So Goshen actually got pulled out of it, I think, because they don't want to go that way round left-handed. And he might just be a bit of a monkey around there. But it's well backed into 4-7. Again, another one for the accumulators here, Johnny. They were stacking up and quite a few were landed at the weekend. Whereas Adagio was out to 15-8. They were much closer in the morning of the race.
So he was backed in a double with Mellon, the Goshen Mellon double.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, one of the boys in the office is Mellon's biggest fan through thick and thin. And I believe that he actually had them in a treble. I can't remember who the last one was, but I do remember it going in because I could hear him tapping the desk behind me. There were a few people doing that, them in multis. One horse that we did just skip that we do need to talk about from Haydock, which was probably performance of the weekend for me, was Hillcrest. I would be maybe a little bit worried for the Albert Bartlett if he was to go there, purely just because of the field sizes that he's faced so far. But it was a fantastic performance. Him and Greenberg were up in the van the whole way, went a really good pace, and he did manage to see him off and actually managed to gallop through the line. So I do think that was a hell of a performance. Into 6-1 for the Albert Bartlett. The real shorter in the race for the Albert Bartlett's Manella Crooner, who I talked about a few weeks ago. I think he was around the 6-1 mark with us when we spoke. Nothing's happened since. He's now 133-1. So big support for Manella Crooner after his run at Dublin Racing Festival. You look perplexed, though. You look perplexed.
Yeah, well, no, not actually, because in fairness, his jumping was more obviously than the winner on the day, and David Jennings actually put him up strongly in the race, posting the Monday recap. And fairness to Goshen, if he could go right-handed all the time, he actually might interesting if he comes over to Punchestown, considering he's not going right-handed. But no, Manella Crooner, it's an obvious one. He needs to absolutely stay all day. The softer the ground, the better. Only get to know he's jumping, and it is a slog of a race, so I can definitely see that angle. Yeah,
exactly. Just when I get back to the field size of the Hillcrest, first of 7, unseated rider, very unluckily, out of 6 runners. First of 7, first of 6, first of 7, first of 9, and then 2 of 12. But that was in a bumper. So I would just have a little reservation there of how the race will pan out. He looks a lovely horse, absolutely lovely horse. We actually had someone come on and request him to win the Gold Cup in 24 or 25 this morning, actually, which was an interesting one to try and price up. So he's obviously going to be a fantastic chaser, but he is already a 7-year-old. I'm just not sure how the Albert Bartlett test will suit him, but he's definitely one for the future. I can see him in the places here. He's got a fantastic each-way chance, but from a win perspective, I wouldn't be 100% sure. But he was probably performance of the weekend, just the way he went through the race and the way he managed to stay in front when he kind of burnt off the second favourite Greenberg and managed to stay there and power away from the closers.
Yeah, lovely to see the late Trevor Hemmings as well. His colours carried to victory, and it'd be nice to see if that happens at Cheltenham as well. And Trevor Hemmings obviously so heavily involved in Preston North End, which will bring us on to football. This is becoming really interesting now. Big Liverpool house buying at home. I think maybe my brother actually backed them at one point in the middle of the season to win the league. But I have to say, win their game in hand, which is against Leeds, who lost to Manchester United yesterday, and all of a sudden it's a 3-point gap, and it's actually back in Liverpool's hands. How did the weekend go?
Well, just big changes in the main market. I mean, I think trader chats around Christmas, we stopped talking about the Premier League because it just looked like a foregone conclusion. City are out to 1-5 from 1-10, and Liverpool are into 130 from 6-1. When you see City at 1-5, you think, it's still a one-horse race. When you see Liverpool 130, you think, right, okay, there's actually a genuine runner here. So Liverpool into 130 after winning at the weekend. It didn't look likely for a bit. You looked frustrated, but then you managed to kind of get the first goal, and after that, it was just the floodgates opened, didn't they, for Liverpool? And then the City Spurs game was mental.
They made changes, and but in fairness, like an hour gone in the game, they're 1-0 down. They turned it around in 2 minutes. It was basically game over. Salah, unbelievable touch for the second goal. Obviously the first goal was brilliant by Mane, but they kind of give the impression that they had things under control. The Man City game, I have to say, defensively, all of a sudden they didn't look good against Spurs. They coughed up a lot of chances. Kane should have scored more, and it was an amazing game, but they probably should have scored more than the 3 that they got.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was a fantastic game to watch. Like I say, Kane should have scored more. I mean, 1-5 just feels a little bit short, and 130 Liverpool actually feels fair when you put it like that. If they do win the game and have been able to get within the 3 points, but it's going to be a fantastic watch, and at least we've got a little bit of a title challenge on our hands now, rather than just looking at the top 4 and looking at the relegation.
What about the relegation battle? Because there were a couple of very big wins as well. Despite Norwich losing, they obviously look like they might be the other 2 lads down there actually managed wins as well.
Yeah, I know. Watford actually managed to win a match, which was spectacular. So Norwich go down 1-9, Watford 2-7, Burnley 2-1. Then you're 3-1 Brentford, who obviously got beat by Arsenal. Did look a bit shaky for Arsenal in the end, but they managed to keep the job going. Leeds are 7-2, and then 4-1 Newcastle, 5-1 Everton. So there's plenty of runners in that market. It might not look attractive in terms of prizes, but because obviously you've got 3 winners in that market. So hence why the kind of bigger overround. In terms of top 4, there wasn't a huge amount of change here. With Arsenal, United and Spurs winning. The big drifters would be West Ham out to 12-1, but Arsenal are 5-4. United 6-4, and Spurs are 5-2. I think Arsenal kind of have it in their hands at the moment, just with the games in hand and where they are in the table. So I'm pretty happy with where we sit. I guess we want to talk about the Champions League very briefly. We had matches during the week. We've got matches this week as well, Johnny, yeah?
Sure, yeah. And obviously Liverpool and Man City basically through to the next round, and wait to see who joins in. PSG Real was a fascinating game last week, but we have the other half of the draw now this week.
We do. So City are into 9-4 from 5-2 after a dominant display, and then Liverpool are 7-2 from 5-1. So the British teams are ahead in the market and heading the charge of the Champions League. And you've got Bayern Munich there at 9-2. PSG is 7 now. When the Messi news broke last year, I remember them going into 9-2 joint favourites. So there's kind of a big drift on PSG, and the British teams just seem to have the market by the cojones, by the looks of it.
7, a bit tempted by 7s actually, I think, because they should get through anyway, at the very least, and they have Mbappe. I
should await your bet coming through on my bet ticket just here, Johnny, after trading chat's finished on PSG at 7-1 then, shall I?
You have to contextualise it, because Real are miles off where they were. They have a lot of old players that they're reliant on, and they were trying to get a 0-0 draw, which they nearly did. But at the same time, PSG have Messi and Mbappe, and Neymar was only come back from injury, so defensively reasonably solid. You might be hoping for a somewhat favourable draw, but yeah, wouldn't put people off 7s.
Okay, well, that's one to have a look for the Champions League outright. We've got to reach the final in there, which is an interesting mark actually. City 11-10, and you got Munich at 7-4, along with Liverpool 3-1, Chelsea along with PSG, and then Ajax are 6. We've got top goal scorer, which is quite an interesting market as well, because I believe that Sebastian Haller actually needs to weigh in by a goal or 2. He's 5-2 second in. Lewandowski's favourite at 4-7. Then Salah's in there at 11-2, and you're 22-1 bar. But if you did think that Bayern are going to underperform and potentially get knocked out, then Haller is obviously the play here, obviously having the lead. And I don't think Ajax really push overs anyway. I think they might have Benfica potentially this week. Right. Ajax. So I think Haller could be one to look at 5-2 for the top goal scorer market. We've got nationality of the winner, and we've got the English team to progress the furthest on the side as well. So plenty of Champions League, the RIV markets to get stuck into, as well as the actual match winner markets this week.
Just finally, the top 4 betting?
Top 4 betting, for the Prem?
Indeed, yeah. It's becoming really interesting. Obviously, West Ham look kind of out of the race now. They were held by Newcastle, but Man United, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a sad story since the Glazers took over of how this club's been run, but they're nothing if not entertaining. And every week they seem to be giving us something to talk about. And they blew it against Leeds, but then they managed to win 4-2, and everything was all right again.
Yeah, so Arsenal would be the shortest, obviously, outside of Chelsea, but Arsenal 5-4, 6-4 United, 5-2 Spurs, and then 12s West Ham. So that's how we shape up for the top four.
Perfect. So on to the golf victory for Chile in the Genesis.
It was indeed. Joaquin Niemann absolutely routed them, hit two fantastic rounds to start with. I think he was 16 under after 2 rounds. Absolutely unheard of at the Genesis, which is meant to be a really difficult track. It gets really difficult when the wind blows there. There wasn't much wind this week. The greens were still pretty firm and fast, but he just played fantastically well all weekend, to be fair to him. It was something I've never seen before done at the Genesis, at the Riviera. He was a taker in the book. Hovland and DJ were the main losers. Hovland had a great chance going into the final round. I say a great chance. He was a 10 poke, but I'm trying to think how many. I think he was 6 back. I think he was 13 under, and Niemann was 19 under. But obviously, Hovland would be shorter in the outright market before, so hence why he was 10 to 1, but he couldn't get it done. Niemann is 45 to 1 from 66 for the Masters. So a big mover actually when we get to Augusta, which isn't actually that long away. I think that's in April. Actually, it's the same weekend as the Grand National weekend. So that's a good weekend to look forward to sporting-wise. I think all the talk around golf this week was around the Saudi League. So there's been a lot of talk of an opposition league being created in Saudi. Big offers being made in the region around 100 million to the Shambo, apparently. Dustin Johnson. Phil Mickelson's kind of not shed himself in fantastic light this weekend. If you look at some of his quotes, absolutely mental stuff. And I think that some of the other players have spoken fantastically well on it. When you look at some of Rory McIlroy's comments, he actually did stick the knife in a little bit, Rory McIlroy, which was quite funny. He was saying, I don't want to kick a man while he's down, but, and then went on to call him egotistical, selfish comments and all this type of stuff, which I thought was quite funny. But it actually turns out that Bryce has come out and given like a very ambiguous kind of statement saying that while the best players play the PGA Tour, I'm going to play the PGA Tour. So he didn't he didn't nail his colours to the mast saying I will always play the PGA Tour. He kind of just said whilst the best players are there and whilst it suits me, then I will. He's just a bit donut, isn't he? Whereas DJ came out and released a statement through the PGA Tour saying that he pledged his alliance, along with kind of Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, JT, all the kind of decent players came out and said that they were staying with the PGA Tour. But some interesting developments in the kind of golf world from the last week, and not just at the Riv. What
else we got this week?
Plenty going on this week. Just while we're talking golf, got the Honda Classic, which we priced up today. Glenn will be working his magic with that. We'll be standing at Kempton at the weekend, so keep an eye on Simon's blog from the track. So we'll be at Kempton. So yeah, do just come and see us if you do fancy a bet on the course as well as obviously online and on the app. The Darts Premier League continues. We saw 2-9 darts last week from your man Gerwin Price, and he's actually favourite to win it outright now. So we're heading into week 4 now to win the darts outright, the Premier League outright. 11-4 Gerwin Price, 130 Johnny Clayton, 7-2 Peter Wright, 4-1 Michael Van Gogh, 14 Joe Cullen, and then your 16-1 bar. That's in the main market. We've got to reach the final. We've got the most 180s in the tournament. All matches count. This is an interesting market, actually. Johnny Clayton's favourite. He's currently on 20 at 5-2. Gerwin Price is on 17. He's 7-2. Joe Cullen's on 21, so he's actually ahead of the curve, but he's 4-1. So our compilers here are obviously thinking that Joe Cullen's not going to get through to many more matches. They've changed the format this year with the Darts Premier League. So instead of it just being a round robin each week, they're creating a tournament every single night. Obviously, if you get knocked out early, you don't play as many matches. So you have to bear that in mind for the most tournament 180s. We've also got a player tournament 9-dart finish where all the players are priced up. Obviously, going prices out of that market after knocking 2 in last week. We also price up to win each week. So like I say, now it's done in a tournament kind of format. We price up each week. We've got the week 4 outright here. Going price will be 130. Michael Van Gogh 4-1. Peter Wright 4-1. 5-1 Johnny Clayton, then 15-2 bar. So we've got the match betting on site. We also bet outright week to week, as long as the outright for the whole Premier League. So we've got that going on, and then we've got plenty of midweek football. We've got Champions League. We've also got Premier League midweek, I believe, as well, Johnny. So there is plenty to be getting stuck into this week. And then we're just round the corner from Cheltenham. I'm not sure if you've got any Cheltenham thoughts. Do you want to leave with this week, or whether we just save it for the weeks to come?
Well, it's 4 weeks away now. So what sort of specials are we looking at on the site?
So the specials will go up once we get the final, not the final decks, but the first decks for the handicaps, which I believe are in the coming days. So once we get them, then the Presbyterian Cap handicap will hit the site, along with any other specials that we kind of see fit. At the moment, in terms of specials that we've got, it's more around the main market for the Presbyterian Cover Island, the 10 on, the top jockey market where you read money, Paul Townend, 7-2 Rachel Blackmore, 5-1 Davey Russell, and 8 bar. And then top trainer, obviously Willie heads that market at 4-9. Just a question from the hip, Johnny. Is Willie going to have more winners than GB?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. There's an interesting article in the Irish Times this morning about bookies being asked to lay a price of an Irish whitewash, which is ridiculous. Some were only going 200 to 1. I'm sure it's about 2 million to 1. But so 23.5 last year. Willie strength and depth. That's a match bet for your traders. Willie versus GB. Get it up on site. Get
Willie
that up
versus
on site.
GB.
And I would say off the top of my head, Willie be favourite.
Oh, I don't think he would. I think what's Willie going to have? 6, 7 max?
7, 8.
Yeah, you think 7, 8? Okay. Yeah, no, I think GB would just be favourite personally, but maybe that's my British kind of heart speaking. But yeah, they'll be hitting site towards the end of the week. I believe that we're going to be filming some of the kind of preview videos in the coming weeks as well, so they'll be getting out, and it's kind of all ramping up to Cheltenham fever now.
It is indeed. Thank you, Flynn.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Trader Chat. Izzy obviously she copped the money, despite the fact she lost her docket, and she'll be back for Cheltenham at some stage as well, as I hope will you be. Talk to you next week.